Hello guys, I'm John, I'm the geeky fanboy, and welcome back to Doctor Who Series 12. We're at episode 3, the first episode after our two-part opener. It is Orphan 55, and the Doctor and her companions find themselves on, well, more or less willing holiday on Orphan 55 at a nice little spa, but of course, hijinks and troubles ensue, and a strange alien race starts attacking the spa and kills some of the people there, and now they have to find out what this whole alien race is about while trying not to die in the process. This review is going to be mostly spoiler-free. I might get into some spoilers towards the end when I talk about some of my complaints, but yeah, I'll give you a warning beforehand, so let's go. So while I thought that this episode was okay, it's definitely not as good as the first two episodes we had, especially not as good as the last episode, like Spyfall Part 2, so this is definitely a step back in quality, I thought, which doesn't necessarily mean that this is a straight up bad episode. I think Doctor Who doesn't really do straight up bad episodes. Like, I very rarely outright dislike a Doctor Who episode. This was just an okay run of the mill, maybe slightly under average good Doctor Who episode. So it does feel like classic Doctor Who to a certain degree. You know, the Doctor and her companions at a place where they're trying to have fun, but then stuff goes down. I mean, that's classic. That's just how it happens. I had some trouble with the pacing of the episode, because usually with episodes that use this kind of narrative, we have a couple of minutes where they try to establish what this place is, and we have the Doctor and their companions having some fun usually before trouble goes down. This time, they go straight into the trouble. We barely have time to sort of relax ourselves in the beginning to kind of get familiar with our surroundings. We don't really have that. This pacing issue kind of is a thing throughout the entire episode, where sometimes things are just happening too quickly or too rapidly in succession without any greater explanation. Well, I was like, oh, this is happening now. Okay, but we're suddenly in that action again. It was just a bit irritating and too fast for me at times, where people just came in and I was like, oh, you're suddenly there, and oh, suddenly the action happens. Just a bit more detail, a bit more establishing time would have been nice. Also, most of the secondary characters we get in this episode are, I have to be honest, pretty much forgettable. Also, the aliens in the spa, not the aliens are attacking, the aliens in the spa, they're basically just humans again with weird makeup. I'm like, I know that this is, you save money and all that, but come on, Doctor Who, give me some more weird aliens they hang around with. We literally just have normal humans in a weird wig, and a lady from the Cats musical. That's it. And I don't know, most of those characters are just pretty much forgettable, or have one character trait, and that's their whole shtick for the entire episode. They also try to do some character development with some of them, but it doesn't really work in my opinion, because either it comes out of absolutely freaking nowhere without any establishing or foreshadowing at all, or they try to do it and it's just not enough. It doesn't get to the point where I care about those people, because I really didn't. So when some of them die, I'm like, okay, that's just what happens. And apropos dying, they did the whole, this isn't really a spoiler, this happens in every kind of Doctor Who episode that is like this. They did this whole, oh, I'm gonna sacrifice myself so you can run. That sort of thing happened way too many times in this episode, where at some point it was just okay, this isn't really that emotional anymore at this point. They're also sort of trying to do a thing between Ryan and one of the secondary characters. I'm not going to tell you how it ends, but I just thought that it was, I mean, it was kind of cute, but it was also unnecessary to a certain degree, especially since they say this right at the beginning when they meet, since Ryan says, well, I'm not trying to chat you up, so I thought, oh, okay, so this is not gonna be a romance thing, but it sort of kind of is. And I thought, why is this here? This random character Ryan suddenly sort of kind of has a crush on, and I'm like, not enough detail, and I don't really care. I mean, our main characters are fine. Like, I always like all of them. The Doctor has a lot of stuff to do in this episode, which I thought was quite cool. Like, she gets to do her whole classic Doctor shtick. She takes charge, tells people what to do, has the clever plans, gets the clever explanation stuff. You know, I like seeing that sort of thing. There is not really that much of the usual classic Doctor Who humor, I thought. We have some of that stuff in like the first couple of minutes, especially with Graham again, obviously. But since this is an episode that pretty much relies on full suspense and full tension the entire time, there isn't really that much time to have like a bit of a laid-back moment, or a bit of a humorous moment. Doesn't really happen. And I already said Ryan has this sort of a romance subplot that didn't really work for me. And we don't get to spend time with Yas in this episode. Like, not really. She continues to be the most underused companion, which is sad because I actually really like her, and I think she could be quite a fascinating and interesting character if they would give her more to do. And even Graham doesn't really get that much to do, really. Like, no one really gets any sort of like highlight or focus. I mean, the Doctor does her usual stuff, but we don't really have any like sort of particular special moments with any of our main characters, making this, and I always said this, like one of those run-of-the-mill Doctor Who stories. I have to say that not everything is bad about this episode. Like, for example, I thought the aliens that are attacking the spa, they are cool. I love the design. I love how they are established, how their attack is being established in the beginning, and how the camera works with the aliens, like especially in the beginning when they're starting to attack the spa. It feels very sort of alien, like the movie Alien, like with the camera work and everything. Also, the design isn't like, it kind of reminded me of it, but that could be because of the camera work, how they use that, and I thought it was, I'm thinking they did that on purpose. So yeah, I thought that was kind of cool because you really do get this sort of on edge, scary feeling when you catch glimpses of the aliens for the first time in the episode. And I like the design. Again, it's sort of this humanoid design, but I kind of like what they did, especially with like the head design. It looks very menacing, very terrifying, which works obviously rather well for this episode. Also, in regards to the aliens, without spoilers obviously, but I like the reveal of what those aliens actually are, and this sort of explanation of what this whole Orphan 55 thing actually is. I like that, even though I'm gonna address it a bit more in the spoiler part, even though the explanation for it is a bit too much. Like, we have this sort of message problem again with Chris Chibnall's Doctor Who, where they're trying to say a good thing and you're like, yeah, I get it, but then they like, in your face, explain it to you and you're like, okay, didn't need that, but thank you. Like, where it's a bit too obvious and a bit too much. Like I said, I like the idea, I like the reveal, it was a cool thing, I thought, but it was just a bit too much in your face towards the end. So like I said, this isn't a straight up bad episode. It's just, it could have been better. It definitely could have been better. It's just this classic Doctor and their companions get somewhere, try to relax, but doesn't happen. Get attacked by aliens that kill people. That's it. That's all that happens. There is no greater character development or story development or greater detail to the whole thing. I like the reveal, but, you know, I don't know, they could have maybe done a bit more with this whole idea they had there towards the end, and yeah, it's just, I mean, I would rewatch it, but it certainly isn't going to be my favorite of Series 12. Okay, and I'm going to jump into just a few spoilers to clarify some things I mentioned before, so if you don't want any spoilers, skip to the conclusion. Okay, yeah, so what I mainly want to talk about is what I just mentioned, this whole explanation reveal towards the end where they're like, oh, Orphan 55 is Earth, and I thought, oh, cool idea, I like that. And the weird aliens are deformed, mutated humans, which I also thought, oh, cool, nice idea, gives this whole thing a bit of a heavy feeling, it's Earth, it's our planet, especially in regards to the companions that would be like, oof, well, that happened. And I mean, this whole message here is climate change is bad, and we have to be careful what we do. And you know what? I appreciate it. I appreciate the message, and I'm all for raising awareness of climate change and how we contribute to it. Honestly, I love the idea behind that. It is an important message, and I don't mind it being in there. Like, I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, all politics, all sort of political messages have to stay out of Doctor Who. No, like, I'm not one of those people. I just mind that it's way too obvious in your face about it. Like, it could have been done in a bit more of a subtle way. Like, they didn't have to straight up say, because that's what they do. They straight up tell you, climate change, things got bad in society, Earth's getting destroyed because of it. Like, they straight up tell you that. And this has been a problem with Chibnall's Doctor Who. When they're trying to do this sort of message thing, they're oftentimes being too obvious about it. Like, I don't need them to tell me to my face, this one particular thing or person is bad and we need to be aware of it. Like, I get it. I know climate change is bad, and it would have been completely enough if they had just left it at, oh, this is Earth, and those are humans. They maybe could have just put something in there a bit more vague regarding explanation that, I don't know, society collapsed at some point during the 21st century, or they could have said, natural resources became hard to obtain, or something like that. They didn't have to like straight up say, climate change, it's our fault that this thing went bad. Like I said, I don't mind, and I'm all for this, and I am someone who is like very much politically aware of those kinds of things and is interested in that kind of stuff. I just don't like it when in fictional shows, when they're trying to convey this sort of message, they're being very much in your face about it, because they don't have to be. Like, we would get it on our own. Like, I would have easily understood what they were referring to if they had just left it at, oh, this is Earth, natural catastrophes happened in the early 21st century or something like that. I would have been like, okay, so probably something with, I don't know, climate change or something like that. I would have probably got there myself by thinking. And I'm not quite sure yet where I stand on the whole final speech the Doctor gives. Like, again, I don't mind the message because what she's saying is true, and it's also very hopeful to a certain degree, where she's like, this is just one possible future. This doesn't have to happen. If all of us start working together and start changing things, things can get better on your planet, and it doesn't have to end like Orphan 55. It's great. It's a nice message, and it's very much true. Like, we do have to work together to combat climate change, obviously. But again, it kind of sort of falls into this category where it's like maybe being a bit too preachy in your face about what the episode wants to tell you. Okay, to sum up my review, this wasn't a bad episode. It was just a bit disappointing, especially if you compare it to the series opener. This is definitely a step back in quality. It isn't a straight up bad episode, but it's just a run-of-the-mill average Doctor Who story. They could have done a bit more with like the aliens and the concepts they're trying to play with here. I wanted the companions to have more to do, but on the other hand, the Doctor gets a lot of cool Doctor-ish stuff to do, which was fun. And while I do appreciate the message they tried to convey with this episode, they should have been a bit more subtle about it and not as much preachy in your face. But this is like a general Chris Chibnall Doctor Who problem. But yeah, this is probably not gonna be one of the best episodes of Series 12, and we'll see where they will go next week. Okay, so that's it for this review. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done already. Tell me down in the comments below what you thought of this episode, and I see you guys next time. Goodbye.